Once upon a time, at the prestigious University of Nzube campus, there lived a student named Kalechi, a tall and very handsome man who had a charming smile that could melt the hardest of hearts. Kalechi was the kind of man all mothers warned their daughters about, a man that can be likened to a wolf in sheep's clothing. Kalechi had a reputation that spread across the university campus like wildfire. He was a chronic womanizer and a great master at making unsuspecting ladies in the university fall deeply in love with him, only to discard them like old worn-out clothes when he had gotten what he wanted from them to his satisfaction. Kalechi didn't believe in the existence of love. To him, love was merely a game of hearts, and he was a master at it who played it ruthlessly. Despite Kalechi's toxic personality, he had two close friends, Tunde and Jide. Tunde is a loyal friend, and he has been friends with Kalechi since childhood, and they gained admission into the university together, so they lived together on campus. Tunde constantly warned Kalechi about the dangers of his lifestyle, but Kalechi felt Tunde was being too serious with life. Tunde. Kalechi. A woman's heart is not something to be toyed around with. They are deeply emotional beings, and each heartbreak is like a scar that they would live with forever. Kalechi. My guy, life is too short to be tied down by any woman. Enjoy it while you can. Besides, love is a game of hearts, and I'm just better at it. Tuned. Well, continue with your lifestyle, but I promise you that one day you will meet a woman whose tears will bring you to your knees. Meanwhile, Jide, his other friend, is the complete opposite of Tunde. Jide fueled Kalechi's reckless lifestyle. Forget Tunde and his holiness. Women are meant to be enjoyed. Do not let your emotions get in the way. Besides, you won't be the first womanizer on this campus, Jide would often tell Tunde, enabling his promiscuity. And so, Kalechi continued, charming random ladies on campus with his beauty, and dumping them as soon as he had enough of them, until the arrival of Ifunanya into the prestigious University of Nzube. Ifunanya was new on campus. She had the beauty of a goddess and the shape of a model. It didn't take long before her beauty and elegance caught the attention of everyone on campus. Ifunanya was different from the other girls. She was reserved, intelligent, and extremely smart. All the guys on campus were captivated by her beauty, and most of them approached her for a relationship. But Ifunanya turned them all down. It didn't take long before Kalechi learned about Ifunanya and how none of the men on campus have been fortunate to win her heart. Kalechi was used to women throwing themselves at him, so he saw Ifunanya as a challenge. That new girl would be mine, Kalechi told Jide one fateful afternoon as they both watched her stroll out of the library. Jide laughed at Kalechi and told him, I doubt you can get this one. She is fierce and very smart. She won't fall for your antics. She's special and impossible. But Jide's words didn't discourage him. Instead, it fueled Kalechi's desire the most. Let us bet 100,000 then. I would get her in my best in less than 3 months. Accept this bet and watch me disappoint you, Kalechi told him with seriousness written all over his face. Jide laughed at Kalechi's confidence, and with a handshake, they both sealed the bet. Without wasting any time, Kalechi approached Ifunanya with his well-practiced charm as she walked down the campus corridor. He made her laugh and showered her with attention. Unlike the other men who were quick and impatient, revealing their true intentions without wasting any time, Kalechi was very patient, and he took his time to win her friendship and trust. He gave her no reason to doubt his affection towards her, and he never mentioned anything intimate or anything that would make her see him as a predator. Kalechi took his time to convince her that he was very different from other men who had approached her in the past. After a month, Ifunanya slowly let her guard down, believing that Kalechi was genuine. When Kalechi realized that Ifunanya had taken a liking to him, he asked her out and she accepted to be his woman. However, Ifunanya gave Kalechi a condition. They would never share anything intimate. So, she was willing and ready to give him her heart, but she cannot give him her body. Kelechi tried every trick up his sleeve, but Ifunanya had strong values and principles. One fateful night, they were both together in Ifunanya's room when Kelechi tried to seduce her. But Ifunanya bluntly told him, "I will only give myself to the man who truly loves me and is willing to marry me. I have kept myself for so long for the right man, and I can't go back now." Kelechi felt a twinge of guilt, knowing that he didn't love her. In fact, he doesn't believe in love, but he was determined to win the bet he had with Jide. He just needed to be patient. Kelechi convinced her that he loves her deeply and would love to marry her as soon as he gets a job after college. He also made her believe that he didn't care about her body or sleeping with her. In his words, "I just want you to be happy, Ifunanya. That is all I want." His words melted Ifunanya's heart like a knife through butter, and she slowly began to trust Kelechi deeply. She began to strongly believe that he had genuine intentions towards her. Kelechi never gave her a reason to doubt him, and he desisted from being with any other girl until he conquered Ifunanya. One fateful night, Kelechi pleaded with Ifunanya to visit him at his house off campus, and after much persuasion, she accepted his request after he promised her that nothing intimate would occur. It was a quiet and cold night. When she arrived, it was just the two of them. Kelechi made his house so neat and adorned it with a romantic theme. Ifunanya was swept away by his gestures. She felt so special. After they had finished having dinner, they both sat on the couch watching a romantic movie. Kelechi had set the theme so right that Ifunanya was subconsciously falling into his trap. As they both sat on the couch, Kelechi held her close, looked into her eyes and tried to steal a kiss, but Ifunanya turned her face away. However, she was swayed by all that Kelechi did and felt indebted to him for everything he's done for her since they met. She looked at him and said softly, with her eyes filled with trust, "Promise me. Kelechi, promise me that you will never break my heart, that you will never hurt me or cheat on me." Kelechi moved closer to her and whispered sweet words to her and reassured her of his love for her. "You have no idea how much I love you, Ifunanya. I would be a fool to break your heart or cheat on you. I swear, Ifunanya, you're my final destination. You're the only one I want." Kelechi lied through his nose without hesitation, in a desperate attempt to have her. That night, Ifunanya gave herself to Kelechi. She trusted him and hoped for the best. And that was the night Kelechi realized that Ifunanya had truly been keeping herself for the right man. She was indeed a virgin. As he had his way with her, something inside him shifted, and his heart was overwhelmed with guilt. Yet he pushed the feeling aside and took advantage of Ifunanya. Kelechi felt happy and victorious that he had won the bet, but he had no idea that fate had other plans. The next day, Kelechi visited Jide and Tunde with a grin plastered on his face. His friends needed no soothsayer to know that Kelechi had finally conquered Ifunanya. Jide sent him the money just as they had agreed, but Tunde felt sad and disappointed in the both of them. However, there was nothing he could do other than to continue counseling Kelechi in hope that he would listen and mend his ways. Days turned to weeks and weeks to months, and the relationship between Kelechi and Ifunanya continued. All the guys praised and hailed Kelechi for winning Ifunanya's heart, and each time he walked with Ifunanya on campus, he felt proud, like a peasant who just won the lottery. Ifunanya foolishly believed that Kelechi genuinely loved her, and so she built her life around him. As the months went by and their relationship continued, Kelechi's love and interest in Ifunanya started to fade, but Ifunanya remained deeply in love with him, believing that Kelechi was her future. Then one day, everything changed. Ifunanya visited Kelechi at his home off campus that day. As she sat on the couch facing Kelechi, who was focused on his phone, "Kelechi, I have something to tell you," Ifunanya told him with a broken voice. "What is it?" Kelechi asked her, still focused on his phone, barely looking at her. "I'm pregnant," Ifunanya finally said. Silence suddenly filled the room. Kelechi's heart pounded within his chest. He couldn't believe his ears as he looked at her. His charming, handsome face turned to anger as he gazed at her. "What? Are you serious?" Kelechi asked her. Ifunanya's eyes got wet with tears as she answered Kelechi's question. "Yes, I missed my period. I took a test, and I also visited the hospital. I am carrying your child. You would be a father." Kelechi suddenly stood up on his feet. "No, no, no. This can't be happening. You have to get rid of it immediately," he told her with worry written all over his face. "What? Kelechi, this is our baby. It is my first seed and your first child. I can't do it," Ifunanya told him. Kelechi reached into his pocket, pulled out his wallet, removed a wad of cash, and shoved it into Ifunanya's hands. "Take this and find a way to get rid of it. I can't be a father now. I am not ready." Ifunanya looked at Kelechi in shock. "You promised me, Kelechi. You said you deeply love me and would make me your wife. You promised me that you would stand with me no matter what happens." But Kelechi screamed at her for the first time since they met each other. "I don't care. I never signed up for this. You're not even my type. Get rid of that thing in your stomach. How sure am I that the pregnancy is mine?" Kelechi accused her. His words sent a sharp pain through Ifunanya's heart. She felt like she was dreaming. It would be the first time she would see Kelechi this way. "You met me as a virgin, Kelechi. You took my virginity. I have known no man except you." As Ifunanya spoke, tears flowed freely from her eyes, but Kelechi didn't care. He angrily walked away. Ifunanya left Kelechi's apartment in tears. She was heartbroken and shattered. She couldn't understand how Kelechi, who was so compassionate, turned into a monster. The next day, she visited Kelechi at home once again and went on her knees with a heavy heart. "I am sorry if I offended you, Kelechi. Please forgive me. Don't do this to me. I can't commit an abortion. You promised me that night. You made an oath that night before I gave myself to you." As she was kneeling, Tunde and Jide entered the house. Tunde felt so emotional when he saw Ifunanya on her knees, but Jide didn't care. "Please don't do this to her." Tunde tried to plead, but Jide screamed at Ifunanya without remorse to leave the house. "He is not the man responsible for your pregnancy. Go and find the father to your unborn child. Stop trying to pin it on my friend." With pain in Ifunanya's heart, she stood up with the little dignity she had left and walked away. When she got home that night, she was consumed with hatred. She packed her things and traveled to a very far village, away from the university. Then she made a terrible decision under the full moon. She went to the riverside and stood naked. With her heart heavy with sorrow and betrayal, with tears streaming down her face, Ifunanya raised her hand to the sky and said to the universe, "Kelechi, you destroyed my life, but I will not let you go unpunished. From this day forward, you will never know peace. You will struggle, and everything you touch will fail. You'll never be successful in life." After she said these words to the universe, her voice echoed through the vast openness of the river, and the wind howled as if it was carrying her words to the heavens. And from that moment on, Kelechi's fate was sealed. Ifunanya was never heard of again, and Kelechi moved on to another lady, ignoring the existence of Ifunanya and the pain he caused and put her through. In a few months, he graduated with a first-class degree. He was also given an award for being one of the best students in his batch. Despite his Casanova lifestyle, he took his academics seriously. His intelligence was one of the assets which attracted women to him on campus. But after Kelechi graduated from the university, things weren't the same anymore. His friends, Tunde and Jide, got job offers on the same day they graduated, despite having a lower-class degree, but Kelechi strangely had no job offer. Every job interview he went for turned to rejection, and every business venture he attempted failed, woefully. Kelechi became a shadow of himself. His friend, Tunde, was nowhere to be found, and Jide outrightly told him he cannot accommodate and feed a jobless youth. His family were also ashamed of him because of his joblessness. Kelechi's appearance and charm, which were once his greatest weapon, no longer worked. The same women who were head over heels for him suddenly didn't find him attractive or desirable anymore. Kalechi moved from one city to another in search of a means to earn a living, trying to escape his misfortunes. But bad luck followed him diligently, like a shadow. One fateful day after trying for so many years, Kalechi was watching a crusade on television when a man of God called out a man who was experiencing the same setback in life which Kalechi was struggling with. After watching the crusade, Kalechi decided to visit a spiritualist out of desperation for a solution, even though he didn't believe in superstitions or the existence of the supernatural. After traveling for days to the village of the spiritualist which was recommended for him, he finally arrived at the hut of the old man. He sat quietly inside his hut, gazing absent-mindedly at the deities and diabolical items which neatly adorned the hut. Then suddenly the old man called, "Kalechi, right?" Kalechi was startled. He had no idea when the old man entered the hut or how he came to be. "Yes, yes, sir. I am Kalechi," he answered in shock, as he stammered and wondered how the old man knew his name. The old man looked at him and shook his head in shame and disappointment, as if he could read Kalechi's past like an open book. Kalechi looked desperately as the old man made some inscriptions on the bare sand while muttering some incantations. What lasted a few seconds felt like eternity for Kalechi, who was desperate for a solution. When the old man was done, he looked up at Kalechi and told him, "My son, your past has caught up to you, and you are paying dearly for your misdeed. What you are sadly experiencing are the consequences of your actions." Kalechi stared at the old man blankly, unable to make sense of the words he was saying, but he listened patiently, hoping for a positive response. "Baba, please tell me what I must do to reset my destiny and align me with the universe," Kalechi asked impatiently. "You have been cursed by a woman you greatly wronged. You need to ask for her forgiveness. If she doesn't forgive you, then this would be your fate until your demise," the old man explained. The old man's words struck Kalechi's thoughts like lightning. He began to reminisce on his past, trying to figure out the woman he may have wronged, but his mind was a frenzy. He had slept with so many women and broken the hearts of more women than he could remember. Their curses echoed in his subconsciousness, and he recalled his laughter as the women cried their hearts out after he dumped them without remorse. Kalechi thanked the old man and left the hut defeated. The old man couldn't tell him the name of the specific woman he wronged, even after consulting with the oracles. So Kalechi began a journey to the far ends of the universe, in search of every woman whose eyes he brought tears to. He started off by visiting the University of Nzubi. Some of the ladies were still undergraduates while most of them had graduated. One after the other, he approached each of them, enduring humiliation and embarrassment just to earn their forgiveness. Some of the ladies forgave him easily and wished him well in life, while some made him suffer to earn their forgiveness. Kalechi went as far as kneeling down in public and crawling on his knees to earn the forgiveness of some of the ladies he had wronged. His dignity was trampled upon, and his ego was bruised without mercy. Passers-by laughed at him, and others scorned him. But Kalechi didn't care. He diligently did whatever he had to do to earn their forgiveness. He got the number of the ladies he had wronged and called them, pleading for their forgiveness. Some of them vowed never to forgive him for the pain he caused them, while others told him they had forgotten his existence. Most of them were already happily married with beautiful kids. When Kalechi had reached out to all the women he could find, he went back to visit the spiritualist in his hut. "Baba, I have done all that you've asked. I have gone as far and wide as I can to plead for the forgiveness of every woman I have wronged. Please consult the oracles and tell me my fate," Kalechi said, with tears running down his eyes. The thought of what he had to endure became a trauma he couldn't reminisce about. The almighty Kalechi, a master at the game of hearts, a man who can conquer any woman, kneeling and pleading in public like a mere beggar. He was broken, and the old man could see it in his eyes. The old man took some cowries in his hand and enclosed them within. Then he placed it close to his mouth and whispered some incantations while shaking the cowries vigorously before pouring them on a bare sand between his legs. He looked at the scattered cowries hopefully, but shook his head in disappointment. He looked at Kelechi and told him in a defeated tone, "You are yet to meet the woman who cursed you. If it would be any help, you are the first man she gave her dignity, pride, and virginity to. Perhaps this would help you narrow the search." The words of the old man instantly reminded Kelechi of Ifunanya, the innocent young naive lady he manipulated into surrendering herself to him, all in a bid to win a bet with Jide. He recalled her face, her smile, her beauty, her pose, and her innocence. Then he remembered the vow he made to her, his oath and promises, just to get in between her legs. He remembered her tears, her pain, and her plea that fateful night. He recalled how Jide chased her out of his house like a common beggar. She was different from the rest. She was loyal and faithful, the only woman he's ever deflowered. "My son, go and do the needful, or you'd struggle until your demise," the old man said, jolting him back into reality from his daydream. Kelechi thanked the old man and left once again into the world in search of Ifunanya. Even though he knew who to find, the search wasn't easy. It had been years since the incident at the university, and he had no idea where she had gone. In fact, he never set eyes on her since she left his house off campus that fateful night. Kelechi asked around the university. He contacted his old friends and acquaintances, but no one seemed to know where she was. Some of the people he asked laughed at his desperation, while others pitied him. Even Jide, his former best friend, had moved on, living a comfortable life with a beautiful wife and adorable children, while Kelechi struggled. When Kelechi contacted him to ask if he knew the whereabouts of Ifunanya, Jide warned him bluntly never to call his line again. In pain and disappointment, Kelechi continued his search, moving from city to city, replaying his past in his mind. The faces of the women he had hurt haunted him, but none more than Ifunanya. He had taken her innocence, broken her heart, and abandoned her in her time of need. And now, the universe was making him pay. Finally, after months of searching, Kelechi found a clue from an old coursemate in the university. The lady told him Ifunanya had to drop out of the university because she couldn't bear the shame and humiliation that came with harboring an unwanted pregnancy. The lady also told him the location where Ifunanya had gone. Kelechi packed the little things he had left and set off to find Ifunanya, praying in his heart that it wasn't too late. After some days, he arrived at the village where Ifunanya was said to reside. He was fortunate to track her down to her house. She lived in a very quiet neighborhood, far from the chaos of their university days. But when Kelechi finally gained entrance to her house and saw her in the compound, his heart sank. Ifunanya was married to a very wealthy chief. She stood in front of the modest but luxurious house, holding the hands of two beautiful children, and her husband, a tall and kind-looking man, stood beside her. The sight of her happy family was like a dagger to Kelechi's chest. Ifunanya looked at him with a mixture of shock and coldness. She couldn't believe her eyes. She never imagined she would see Kelechi one more time in her life. "What are you doing here?" Ifunanya asked him with a steady but agitated voice. Kelechi quickly fell to his knees. "Ifunan." But Ifunanya wouldn't let him call her name. "How dare you? What gives you the right to call my name out loud?" She thundered and walked away with her husband and children, leaving Kelechi kneeling on the bare floor as he crawled after her. "Please forgive me. I am sorry. My life has been ruined ever since I left you. I know it was my fault. I need you to forgive me. I am sorry," Kelechi said, with tears streaming down his face as he crawled after her like a child, begging for her forgiveness. Ifunanya turned around and stared at him for a long moment. Then she laughed bitterly and yelled at him, venting out the pain buried deep in her heart. Forgive you? Do you know the pain you put me through? I had to forfeit my education because of you. I cried myself to sleep for months. I had no one. I almost took my own life. And now you want forgiveness? Just like that? Her husband placed a protective hand on her shoulder and told her, Sweetheart, you owe him nothing. Together they both left Kelechi outside and entered the house. Kelechi knelt there for hours under the scorching sun until it was night, before he went back into the village to sleep. The next morning, Kelechi returned to Ifunanya's house and knelt in front of the door, pleading for her forgiveness. But Ifunanya ignored him for days, making him suffer, just as she had suffered. Kelechi didn't give up. He came back day after day begging for her mercy. 7 days later, Ifunanya came out to meet him one morning. Do you remember the night you threw money at me and told me to get rid of our child? She asked him. Do you know how lonely I felt? How broken? You stole something from me that I can never get back. And now you want forgiveness? Kelechi lowered his head. I was a fool, Ifunanya. I was blind. I was wicked. And I regret it every single day. Kelechi explained. Ifunanya studied him carefully, searching for sincerity in his eyes, but she remained reluctant. I warned you never to call my name, she told him, and started to walk back inside. But Kelechi held her leg and laid on the bare floor with his chest to the ground. My life is meaningless without your forgiveness. I have gone through hell to find you, and I would rather die here than go back to the city without getting your forgiveness, Kelechi told her with a broken voice. Ifunanya looked at him and saw the honesty and remorse in his voice. Then she told him, Meet me by the riverside at midnight. Kelechi thanked her and returned to the village. He went to the riverside and waited patiently for the sun to set and for the reign of the moon. A few minutes to midnight, Ifunanya showed up at the riverside and stood at the very spot where she had cursed him years ago. Then she said, Tonight, I release you, not because you deserve it, but because I refuse to carry this hatred in my heart any longer. I forgive you, Kelechi. Tears streamed down Kelechi's face as he fell to his knees, overcome with emotion. Thank you, Ifunanya. Thank you. But as Kelechi rose, Ifunanya added, But forgiveness doesn't erase consequences. You and I will never be the same. I didn't abort the child. They were twins, and they belong to my husband and I. If you ever step foot in this village again, I will do worse to you. And with that, she walked away, leaving Kelechi to face his future and whatever it may hold. After Ifunanya forgave him, Kelechi's life turned around. He secured a stable job and his misfortunes seemed to fade. He also found love and got married, hoping to start a new chapter. But fate had one final lesson for him. Kelechi tried for years to get his wife pregnant after getting married, but all his efforts were futile. After a series of tests, the doctors confirmed that he would never father another child. Kelechi was heartbroken. It was a painful reality, but he had to accept it. He had wronged so many women, and this was the price he had to pay. The only children he had in the world were with Ifunanya, and he could never claim them. Kelechi lived the rest of his life differently, treating women with the respect he had once denied them. In the end, he learned that karma never forgets, and the heart once broken can never be truly whole again. The end.